Holy fucking shit, I fucked up big time buying this brake kit. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I've had a long break, but I'm back. I'm excited to work on the car, getting it ready for this summer. However, I wanted to do a quick video on the brake upgrades I've done to the car. As you already read in the title, I spent way more money on the brake system than I did actually buying the car. So I kind of wanted to do a quick breakdown video of what I have bought and what everything cost, what was worth it and what wasn't. Starting out on the front of the car, we have this big brake kit I had imported from England. It was made to fit a Mitsubishi Evo 123, but it fits the Volvo, as the Volvo is a Mitsubishi chassis. Because I had to order the kit from England, taxes, import duty and shipping was quite expensive. Everything you see before you was included in the kit, and the price I paid for the kit was about $1,500. So it was quite expensive, but I did also get a lot. But what exactly did I get for the price? Well, to start off, I got these Brembo brakes. They come from a Renault Megane RS, and they do an amazing job at stopping the car. Now, these are quite dirty at the moment, but they look absolutely amazing on the car. They are about double the size of the OEM calipers, so they look completely crazy on the car. But most importantly, they do a really good job at stopping the car when I'm driving on track. They worked really great. And so in order to mount these calipers to my car, these adapters were also included in the kit. Also, all of the screws were included, so everything mounted up, no problems. There was nothing for me to modify, which was a big relief. These braided brake lines were also included in the kit, of course. They were specially made because they needed to fit the Brembos and of course my car, but it's the same as Evo 123. So these were also of course included. We also got some very basic Brembo brake pads, nothing special. These feel like OEM brake pads, nothing special at all. Last but not least, with the big brake kit are these enormous brake discs. So these brake discs are actually from a Nissan model. So they did have to drill additional holes here in the front in order for them to fit the car, but they did fit no problem. Compared to the OEM discs, these brake discs are absolutely massive. I think they're 320 or 330 millimeters. Original is like 280 millimeters. So these are really big, and they're a lot heavier than the OEM. What's nice about these brake discs is that they are slotted. That means that when you push the brake pedal, you get a nice new clean surface on the brake pads, increasing braking performance. On top of that, these brake discs are also ventilated right here in the middle. So you have vents and fins that suck air into the middle and then pushes that air out between the brake disc. So that means you get additional cooling, which is really important when you're doing lap after lap on a track, because otherwise the brake system just overheats. So this was everything included in the price of the big brake kit. However, the costs did not stop there. Because these calipers were so big, they were actually hitting the spokes of the wheel. So I needed to get spacers in order for them to clear. I decided to go for some proper spacers because I wanted that extra security. So these spacers are actually 18 millimeters wide. And I decided to go with these for all four corners of the car, so it all looked, equal. So 4 spacers ended up costing me $300 on top of the big brake kit, just for it to work. That is quite expensive, but my experience with them were also really good. They held up great, the bolts didn't loosen up on themselves, so I'm really happy with these. So another upgrade I had to do to the car because of the big brake system was actually upgrade the master brake cylinder. I actually ended up buying a brake booster and a master brake cylinder from an Evo 7, and they should fit on my car. So yet again, I bought this from England. So there was a lot of import taxes, duties, and shipping costs. All in all, this cost me $150. Because I didn't have time to install the master brake cylinder, I ended up running quite aggressive track pads on the Brembos. So these are EBC RPX track pads. These actually helped a lot with the lack of brake fluid, and they worked quite well on track. Really happy with these. I really recommend them to you if you want to buy them. But they were also quite expensive. A set of these brake pads set me back $220. All right guys, moving on to the rear of the car, starting out with the rear caliper. This is actually an original OEM caliper. The reason I ended up going with original OEM is because of these handbrake mechanism that is integrated into the caliper. The thing is, you don't have any aftermarket performance calipers that have an integrated handbrake mechanism in them because this is so complicated. So going with an OEM caliper here was just the easiest choice. The least amount of hassle, the least amount of money. However, as you can see, you have two sets of calipers, and that is because I fucked up when I installed these calipers. So I must have accidentally pulled a handbrake or something when there wasn't any brake fluid in them. So that actually ruined the entire calipers. So I needed to buy new calipers, and now I also need to get them painted, which sucks really bad. All in all, this cost me $300 for two sets of OEM brake calipers. Moving on to the brake lines, I actually ended up going for steel braided brake lines. Now, I couldn't just buy the rear ones, so I had to get an entire set for the front and the rear. This ended up costing me about $150. Moving on to the brake discs. These are quite similar to the OEM brake discs. However, they are also slotted. I ended up going for slotted rear discs because I wanted them to match the front. However, I can tell you this right away. It's really hard to see that these discs are slotted because they're so tiny, you can't really see it. In the front, you can see it clearly. In the rear, you can barely see it. However, I ended up getting these brake discs for a really good price. They were actually included in the purchase of these brake pads. These are some EBC Red Stuff brake pads. They work really nice. All in all, for the brake pads and the brake discs, I paid $300, which I think is a really good price for this. However, these brake discs are not ventilated like the front. Now, it doesn't really matter in a front-wheel drive car because all of the weight is in the front, and when you push the brake pedal, all of that weight gets transferred even more to the front. So the front brakes do like 80 to 90% of the braking anyways, so it doesn't really matter. But at least the rear matched the front and the front matched the rear. As you can see, the Brembos and the rear brakes are painted yellow. That paint cost me $40, and then it cost me an additional $150 to have them professionally painted. So that is also to consider with the brake system. Another thing that is perhaps the most important in the entire brake system is to have really good brake fluid. This is Motul RBF 660. It is a really high temperature brake fluid, and it works amazing on track. This is one of the things that did the biggest difference on my car. Really happy I went with this brake fluid. But it wasn't all that cheap. I think 4 bottles cost me around $100. So it is quite expensive, but it's really worth it. I also had some extra costs here and there. I had to buy some brake caliper bolts. I had to buy some brake line clips. I also bought this power bleeder. It makes it really easy to bleed the brake system alone. All in all, that's about $200 to $250 extra dollars. Okay guys, this is it. This is the entire brake system for the car. I guess the question now is, how happy am I with it? What you need to take into accounting is how the OEM brakes were. They actually sucked. Even from factory, when the car was brand new, the brakes were really bad. So I'm really happy that I have upgraded the brake system. I'm really happy that I went with the Brembos and not some other brand. I'm really happy with how everything turned out. However, I don't think I would have done this if I knew from the start how much money I would actually have to spend on this brake system. I am painfully aware of how much money I have spent on this brake system for this car. I am painfully aware of it and it hurts quite a bit. A tip from me to you, if you want to upgrade the brake system on your car, is to just upgrade the brake fluid. Preferably get a good brand like Motul RBF 660. It is a really good brake fluid. And pair that up with some really good brake pads. EBC red stuff is perfect for street driving. And I think actually that is all you need. Just brake fluid and brake pads, that's it. You get the most bang for your buck. At the end of the day, this brake system is exactly what I wanted for the car. With these Brembos, I am now able to buy track pads. I could not do that for the OEM brake calipers, so I'm really happy with that. Plus, with this brake system, I get ventilated front discs. So now I can finally install brake air ducts so I can cool the braking system, allowing me to drive lap after lap without the brakes overheating. So at the end of the day, yes, I've spent a lot of money on this, but I am very happy with it. But maybe I could have done a few things in order to save money and not spend so much on this brake system. Now, that's enough yapping from me. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and take care.